Good afternoon, podcast people, and those on Facebook Live. Time for another episode of Things My Mother Never Told Me. Tina, say hello.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining in.
And we got another special guest. This one we watched grow up, so he real special.
I know that's right.
we gonna read your bio and get into answer these questions.
Yeah, we do. We know the whole kit and caboodle. All right. Tonight we have a special one, like he said. We have David Lawrence Johnson. He is the coordinator of physical production for original documentary films at Netflix. Before joining Netflix in April 2019, David was an associate producer of the National Geographic Channel, producing short form and digital content for National Geo Kids, including the Emmy-nominated Nat Geo Kids block. Previously, he worked as an associate producer of the Smithsonian Channel, producing multiple primetime documentaries, as well as exhibit videos currently on display at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture. David holds an MFA from the American Film Institute and a Bachelor of Arts degree in film from Howard University. David and his wife, Corinne, have two sons, Ellington 6 and Parker 4. Ooh, sound like a busy life to me.
Welcome, sir. How you doing?
Welcome.
Good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Yes, it is a busy life. It is.
Right.
I'm looking out the window right now. I think my wife just let them out on the patio. So there may be some window knocking in a moment. I'm gonna try to ignore them. But if you see me glance up, that's why.
All right. Well, thank you for taking time out your day to talk with us.
My pleasure.
One of the things we didn't read in your bio, and we always like to stress this, is where did you go to school? High school.
Oh, I went to West Bloomfield High School.
West Bloomfield High School, right up the street.
Yep, I was in West Bloomfield School District K through 12.
All right.
All right.
And then you went to Howard University.
I had to get out of Michigan. I had to go, and that's not knocking Michigan. I felt I was being called to the big city somewhere on the East Coast. I didn't know where. My parents had me on a black college tour, maybe like, I don't know, 11th, 12th grade, somewhere early, just
Right.
before I had to make some decisions, right?
Okay.
And I went to a bunch of the schools in the South. And we got to Howard, and I was like, I want to be right here. I want to be at this school that is in the middle of the city. I grew up in the burbs.
Right.
I can't be around a whole bunch of trees and lakes no more.
I like to be in the heart of it. I hear you.
Right.
I miss it though, but I was like, I need a break. So
Right.
I went to DC.
Right. And you haven't looked back since, huh?
No, I have not. But you know what? But I look at that as a blessing though, because I took that leap of faith, and I have been afforded opportunity after opportunity, and I look at myself as truly blessed to have had those opportunities. And it's really just one foot in front of another, and another door open, and here I am.
All right. All right.
Right.
Yeah, and that you're looking at your bio, and even from what we know personally, your journey has been a good one. Actually, you've been through a lot of good stuff, interesting things, and so we want to talk about some of that.
Okay. Yeah. Look, I'm right there with you. I look at my bio, and sometimes I'm surprised. My coworkers, I think they laugh at me sometimes because I'm ultra positive, but I'm also ultra grateful. Like I don't take any. I've never taken any of my jobs for granted. I actually just did a panel earlier this morning for some students from Syracuse who were supposed to be in town in LA visiting us at Netflix, but they ended up making it a virtual event. And I was just telling them just a few hours ago about how you just never know what's going to come next. And if you aren't open to the journey, and if you're not open to, in my world, what God has for you, everybody has their faith and beliefs or whatever. I have no problem letting you know that my faith is in the ordering my steps through God.
That's right.
If it had not been for those things,
Mhm.
I wouldn't have some of these cool things. I wouldn't have had these opportunities. I would have been, I don't know,
Yeah, ain't
doing
no telling where we been. You right.
other
Without
stuff.
God,
Yeah,
ain't no telling where we'd have been.
Right.
no, it is all there.
And I must say this right off the bat for those of you who may be listening or watching it in right now who don't know, Davy's mother is the late Reverend Dr. Wilma Johnson, a giant among pastors in not only in Detroit but nationally. So
Yeah.
you had big, you have, and then your father ain't no joke either.
Yeah, well, he certainly kept us in line growing up. Yeah, and yeah, my mother still plays a momentous role
Yes.
in my life and in my my choices and in my parenting, in my leadership at my current church. Even I'm always looking back with admiration
Yes.
and
Yes. Yes.
on,
Yes.
on the way that she led, and of course, as a child growing up in the pastor's office, you're not privy to all the ins and outs of everything. And I have certainly come to know that her journey at New Prospect was not all roses. Of course not.
Right.
There were plenty of challenges along the way. There were plenty of hills to climb. But what I can say, and I will always say publicly, is that I appreciate that my mother always tried to move in faith and in grace.
Yes.
And I'm trying to do the same myself.
All
Yes.
right. All right. We
Mhm.
appreciate that.
That's right.
So let's.
Justice, righteous, all that.
That's right.
Humble.
That's
Yes,
right.
all
That's
that.
right. and she led the church in just that manner. So and she is
Woo.
still missed. So let's get into the meat of your journey. What made
Yes,
you
sir.
what made you go into film?
Well, and this is where I feel like this is where God ordering your steps comes into play, because I don't ever have a memory of even making that decision. If that makes any sense. My earliest memories of any career aspirations were when I was very, very young. When I was very, very young, I saw Indiana Jones and I wanted to be an archaeologist. I remember that. I remember I was like, you know what? I'm getting on a plane and flying to some random country and finding something. That's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
And then I think for a short time, I think I was interested in acting.
Okay.
Because I got very involved in theater young before I got into high school. But then when I got to high school, I took a film and video class.
Yeah.
And that changed everything. I remember my professor, Kevin Walsh, never forget his name. He told us that this is a class that's going to change your understanding of how TV and film work. And once you understand that there are dozens, if not hundreds of people behind the camera
Yes.
Yeah.
in these shots that you're looking at in these cool scenes in these movies, you're never going to be able to look at TV and film the same. And he was absolutely right. And I got fully invested in all sorts of communication, radio, television, film at West Bloomfield. And at the time, West Bloomfield had just gotten some huge infusion of cash to build out a new TV station and all kinds of stuff. So I was at the forefront of that there. And I was getting my hands on equipment that many of my peers, once I got to Howard, had to wait until they were in college to deal with.
Yes.
So having that inspiration up front, one step in front of another, just led to another door that just kept leading to more TV, more film, more TV, more film. And so when it came time to apply to Howard, I knew that I wanted to go to an HBCU.
Right.
Actually, I take it back. Dave and Wilma Johnson were like, listen, if we are paying for it, you're going to a historically Black college. Neither of them went to an HBCU, but that was very important for our household. That was very important to them.
Yes.
And I actually applied to one other school. It was Roosevelt College in Chicago.
Okay.
And I applied as a theater major. And when I got accepted, Wilma Johnson was like, well, I don't even know why you applied. You got scholarship money? And I was like, that was a real big moment in our house.
Right,
I was so frustrated, but I wouldn't change anything about that process now. So yeah, I got to Howard, majored in radio, television, and film, got my bachelor's degree, had a wonderful time there creating, producing, I shot a lot of pageants and shows, and
Oh, that was
I
fun.
always had a camera, and that's what it turned into for me, was an
Mhm.
outlet, a creative outlet for editing and producing and shooting.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I did all that with the intention of moving to LA one day to write, direct, and produce,
Okay.
not in documentaries though. I always wanted to make just scripted stuff. And as fate would have it, my first internship led me to one of my mentors who would eventually end up as head of production at National Geographic Channel.
Okay.
And once she got that job, she invited me to become her assistant.
Okay.
And that led to where I am now, just this career in documentary production management.
All right. So like you say, step
Look at
by step
God.
by step.
I'm
Step by
done.
step.
I'm
Yeah,
done.
yeah. Not knowing what's next is some of the fun for me. I like faith in that way. Like
Yeah.
I there's a joy in it to me of not knowing what's around the next corner, and sort of just go and take a peek, because you have no idea what God has in store.
I know
I'm
that's
telling
right.
you, we had a judge on here not too long ago too, and he wanted to be a musician. His father said musician.
Yeah. You want to be a drummer or something, didn't you? Something like that. You
Well,
want to be a
yeah,
musician.
drummer.
And Wilder, he's a judge.
His father said, I don't think so.
Been on the bench for years now.
Been on the bench for a year and helping a lot of young brothers.
Does he still dabble in music? I
No,
hope so.
No.
no.
Oh, well, he needs
just-
to go get some drumming lessons.
Nah, when he was young, he just thought he wanted to be a musician.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it. Oh, he thought it. So it
Yeah,
wasn't
he
like
just
that
thought.
wasn't like
Yeah,
his
it wasn't
thing.
like,
Oh, I got
yeah.
it.
You know, that was in his head. That's what he wanted to do. I
Yeah.
actually went to school with him. He graduated from Cass with me.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
yeah,
It was just so-
Judge Kevin Robbins. He in
Yeah, it
Detroit.
was so funny. I was like, why his father said a musician? I don't think so.
But he's touched way more lives in a positive way than he doing this than he
Yes.
would have.
Well, there you
But
go. So he ended up doing what he was supposed to be
what
doing.
he's supposed to be
Yeah,
doing.
supposed
Yeah.
to be doing.
Right.
Yes,
And
he
so
said that.
right.
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I wanted before we get to where you are now, you worked at Smithsonian Channel, and you did at the African American Museum, or Museum of African American Art. Is that the proper name?
The Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture. There we go. I got used to saying a lot.
History and culture.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there we
I
go.
got tongue
There we
tied
go.
on it too.
And so some of the some of the stuff you did, I know that you and Corinne, y'all did the voiceover on some of the exhibits.
Mhm.
Yeah. So in my tenure at National Geographic, my mentor, who brought me on as her assistant, and then I rose up a few ranks while there. I ended up back there after going to film school,
Okay.
and when I say back there, meaning back in DC.
Mhm.
And then I ended up at Smithsonian Channel, where my mentor was now heading up production for all of the videos at the museum.
Okay.
So again, you just never know who God's gonna put in your path. Never know
Exactly.
who you're gonna need or who's gonna bring you along later on in life. And I was originally there at Smithsonian to produce some documentaries and work on a couple different projects. And then they were like, all right, Dave, we're gonna move you to this other project. And I was like, okay, sure, whatever. And it ended up being all of the videos. So Smithsonian Channel actually donated all of the videos in the
Okay.
museum. So if you ever have a chance to go, or if you all have been,
Yeah, we go.
Mhm.
every single video within that museum, hundreds upon hundreds of videos, were
Yeah.
all produced by a team at Smithsonian Channel. And so I had the fortunate opportunity to produce, I don't even remember the number now, but if you go, one of the history galleries it covers civil rights, Emmett Till, Martin Luther King, 16th Street church bombing. So I produced the videos on all of those, and I was lucky to be able to submit my wife's voice as for narration on a few of the videos and for some of the spots in the gallery. So as you move throughout the museum, you may hear Kareem's voice leading you
All
through
right,
the
Kareem.
journey.
Oh, yeah, because we went there for our family reunion. I think a year after it opened, so we got a chance to go to the
Yeah.
museum.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah, it's
we actually
fantastic.
then we actually took kids from the church
Oh, great.
and we went there. So
It's an incredible experience. I mean, I mean, that's the one thing I miss the most about living in DC, is that LA, I mean, people talk about, the cost of living in LA is so crazy. Now, honestly, I personally, I don't find the cost of living to be the thing that bothers me the most.
Mhm.
It's that in DC, all the museums are free. I don't have to come out of pocket to do stuff with my family.
Right,
And
that's
it's
right.
fantastic.
And it's a lot to do in DC.
Oh my
There's
goodness.
so much to do. And I think because my wife and I didn't grow up in the DC area, we didn't take that for granted. We were on the National Mall all the time. We were at the museums all the
Yes.
time.
Mhm.
And so I miss that a lot. We still do those stuff out here, but it
Nothing
costs
like it.
it costs a few coins.
Right.
Yeah.
And nothing like
Mhm.
DC. My job used to send me there 3-4 times a year.
Okay.
And I took much advantage as I
Yes,
could
you
of the
did.
stuff because usually
Mhm.
we got out of meetings or whatever. It was in the evening, but
Yeah.
I went to see as much as I could go see.
Yeah,
Without a
It's
doubt.
wonderful.
Right.
I miss it very much.
So what was it like working on the museum project?
It was enlightening. It was hard. and it was hard because the nature of television and film production, you're always going to be on some sort of deadline. And many fields have deadlines. But I think the beauty of television and film production is that there are so many different aspects necessary. So you're talking about getting voice work, you're talking about finding pictures, finding old video,
Yeah.
finding folks who remember
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
moment, getting a camera and a team to them to record their interview, and then editing it all together. And on a normal documentary, I would only have network executives to give me feedback, but in this case, we also had museum curators
Yes.
who are intimately familiar with the source material, with the cultural impact that this video needs to show. So there were a lot of very unique elements to that project, and I still look back on that project with fondness because I have to remind myself, unlike a lot of my other projects where someone's like, "Oh, well, tell me about something you made at Nat Geo." It's like, well, you might be able to find it on YouTube, or maybe it's on Disney Plus or something now, but the
Mhm.
museum stuff is always going to be there because
Yes.
Yeah.
it's never going to change.
Right.
So that's something that I have to kind of like pinch myself sometimes, that God willing, my grandchildren may even see that work
Okay.
Yeah.
and hear Kareem's voice, because they don't change videos in history galleries very
Okay.
often.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, I
All
know.
right.
And that's just so touching too. It's just
And so did you?
I'm just moved by
Right.
it, just you saying it, because like I said, I went there and I visited and I heard the videos
Yeah.
and wouldn't have never imagined it was her voice, but it was just so touching, the whole, you know.
Yeah.
what I'm
Well, I
saying?
went in there
When
listening,
you
trying
look
to
back
hear it.
on
I
history
tried
like
to
that.
hear it because I knew it was because I had already knew.
It's a lot to take in. I mean, we when folks were traveling often, we would get those texts, be like, which videos? So I feel like somewhere on one of our computers we just have like a quick like PDF to send to people really quick, because it got to be a lot to have to write it every time. So
Mhm.
Sure.
Yeah, that is amazing though.
So one more question about that, then we'll move on.
yeah,
Did you personally work on the Emmett Till stuff?
I did. Emmett Till was one of my videos. Mhm.
So how was that?
Oh boy. The short answer is that it was just part of the job,
Yes.
meaning that, I mean, we had to get it done, but
Right.
I have always had a soft spot for Emmett Till's story. I still remember when I first saw the open casket picture of Emmett Till. So I felt very fortunate to be able to work on that. I mean, and of course, we're not talking about some Oscar-winning feature
Mhm.
film. We're talking about,
Right.
5-minute video, something like that, right?
Right.
But the entire team, which was it was a multicultural team, but there were quite a few Black leads within. It was very important for us to keep in mind that millions upon millions of people were going to view this
Yes.
in conjunction with his casket, which is on display.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So that there's something very humbling about
Yeah.
being able to curate history for people. So that was really a special moment.
Yeah, because I know when you go into that exhibit, mostly what you hear is nothing,
Mhm.
just silence, because
Yeah.
it's just
yeah.
and then
And that's intentional.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you all have been there, but for anybody listening, the my favorite thing about that museum versus the other Smithsonian's, and I was a tour guide in DC, so I know sort of
That's
about
right,
all
that's
of them,
right.
and I love all of them. But the thing that makes the African American History Museum special is that it was designed to be experienced um, parallel to the journey of African Americans in this country.
Yes.
So you start by going down to the very bottom floor.
Mhm.
It's
Yes.
very tight. It's very
Mhm.
dark. It's very cramped.
Yes.
It's meant to elicit the feeling of being on a slave ship in the Middle Passage.
Yes.
And as you work your way up, it opens up. The story widens. And when you get to my galleries, the civil rights and history galleries, you're seeing and hearing a lot of the pain, a lot of the joy as
Yes.
well. Like one of Kareen's videos is shoot, what is it? It's I can't remember the name of it. It's like something oratory, but it's about the great orators
Yes.
of
Okay.
during I guess like pre-civil rights. So it's like
Mhm.
Ida B. Wells and Booker T. Washington and whatnot.
Mhm.
But seeing and hearing those voices day after day was such an incredible experience. And so even
Yes.
with the somberness
Yes.
of working with the Emmett Till collection and having to license those. So what I did specifically on those as well is because I think sometimes television film production is very like mythical to people. but part of my job was to walk through what the story we're trying to tell and then go research all the pictures, all the video, because that was a well-documented event
Yes.
in American history.
Right.
So we have to pick which ones are going to elicit this feeling. What pictures of Mammy Till should we choose? What pictures from the funeral? What video is there? And then to license it is a whole legal mumbo jumbo. But the fun part is the choosing and knowing that it's going to affect people.
Yes. Yes.
Mm,
Wow.
mm.
Okay. And so one more thing. You did digital content for Nat Geo Kids, and I see Emmy nominated Nat Geo Kids block. How was that experience?
So that was on the opposite end of the spectrum compared to the Smithsonian. So that story is kind of interesting how I even got there, because if you remember, I started my career at Nat Geo with my my mentor who I interned for, and Smithsonian, because Smithsonian Channel donated all the videos to the museum, meaning that nobody was paying for them. They were paying for us and our time basically out of pocket. And so almost everyone who worked on the museum project was consequently laid off at the end of the project.
Okay.
And so that's when I started my my tour company, and I had started playing around with some tour. That was all in between. And then I responded to a ad in one of the TV and film trades for an associate producer for Nat Geo Kids. And I had never done kids content before, and I was a little bit nervous about making that change, but I was like, you know what? I have a kid. And I, unbeknownst at the time, unbeknownst at the time, I think Parker was in utero. So I was like, I got a kid and a kid on the way. I think I might be able to do some stuff. And so I interviewed, and ironically, talk about how God works, I actually ended up at Nat Geo in the position like as an associate producer, which was the role that I felt I had been passed over on years earlier, which led me to apply to film school and leave DC. And I was so upset about it. I was like, I'm ready to be a producer. And God was like, no, you're not really. But we're gonna go to this film school. We're gonna work on some great content. We're gonna get you ready. And then I ended up there. So creating kids content was cool. It was so much fun. We had a lot of room to be creative. Nat Geo is is a very old company. It really is. What I mean, it's as far as like networks are concerned, people
Uh-huh.
think that people are like Disney been around forever. Well, no, Nat Geo's been around since the 1800s as an institution.
Right.
But and then with the everybody knows the magazine, and then once they got into documentaries, it's a household name. So to come in and be given the opportunity to be creative, and the production team that I had was awesome. I'm still super close. I actually, one of the shows that we produced was a show called What Sam Sees, and Samantha Pelch, who's a good friend of mine, is she's an environmentalist and a talented producer on her own. We got to travel all around the country and shoot her in this kids show, teaching kids about eco-conservatism and animals, and I actually just officiated her wedding this past summer.
Oh, wow.
Because I'm still super close with her. So that was such an exceptional experience, and I loved every moment of it. And the only reason it ended is because Netflix randomly emailed me to ask me to consider coming to Netflix. Otherwise, I'd probably still be there.
So it randomly emailed you.
Yeah. I have. I mean, respectfully, to this day, I have never applied for a Netflix position. It was not even on my radar to think about LA again. I knew that I wanted to get to LA again at some point, but I certainly didn't think that I did not believe that I had what it took to get to Netflix. And I'll give you another quick short story about faith and how God works. Kareen and I were actually at the point, while we were in the DC area, we were at the point where we were like, you know what, this is getting a little bit hard, just financially. It was an expensive city. We loved it. We had a gorgeous townhouse that we had purchased, and we were like, you know what, we don't have any family here though. We need to get closer to the grandparents. We want the grandbabies to be with the grandparents, just so they could take them every now and then. Something, at least need something to lift.
Right.
And I jumped on Redfin to talk to an agent about putting the house up, and we were like, you know what, we'll sell the house and we'll move back to the Midwest for a little while, and just let the babies grow, and then we could talk about LA some other time. The next day, I got an email from Netflix recruiting.
Wow.
It said, hey, I found your information on LinkedIn. Would you be interested in kind of taking a look at this position? And so that was right around Ellington's birthday. So that was like February-ish of 2019.
Okay.
And I started April 29th of 2019.
Right. And see,
Yeah.
talk about God working. Look, now, every step of the way, when you thought you was ready, he said, no, you're not. Go do this.
Yeah.
And then when you didn't think you was ready and you was about to do something foolish,
Oh yeah.
then he
Oh,
stepped in and said, hold on. Before you
and I
do
had
something,
all kinds of reservations.
before you do something foolish, let's do this. So and look at you now. Right. So
No complaints.
Right. So what we're gonna do is
I'm loving this story.
we're gonna take a quick segue, because we always ask this question before and then we're gonna go, when we come out of this, we're gonna go into Netflix. Things my mother never told me. That's the title of the show, and we always ask our guests to give us some insight on that if you have something.
Yeah, I mean, I gave it some thought, and you know, I feel like all of mine are going to be like parenting related,
Sure.
because I'm just in the throes of it. Okay, yeah, I mean, y'all, maybe you'll remember, what it's like to have a 4-year-old around.
You'd never forget what it's like.
But I things my mother never told me are things like that sorry, I'm just like, I'm thinking about all the things that I want to say. So like, one thing I feel like my mother never told me was that that you are going to want to end your children's life. I mean, I knew that it was going to be frustrating. I knew I was going to have moments, but I was like, and what makes it funnier is that before she passed, I'll never forget, Ellington was doing something, because he was under 2 when she passed, so he was still little, but I think he was moving around a bit, and I was frustrated about something, and she was like, what was it? Oh, that's my phone, sorry. I was like, I thought children screaming. I was like, what is that noise? She said, he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing.
Right.
And I was just like, no, it's like, I just, he ain't drinking the thing right, or I got to figure out the milk. Blah, blah, blah. Like, he's doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing. And I have to remind myself of that daily with them almost, because I work in production management. I'm all about numbers. I'm all about systems. I'm all about doing the same thing, planning ahead, prepping. I can't expect that of the babies. No. Another thing my mother definitely didn't tell me was how tired I would be.
She probably told you. You should remember.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, that's why I'm going to say that I don't think she told me, but I think it's that she didn't sit me down and say specifically to me.
Yeah.
That's what I needed.
That's right.
That's what I needed.
That's right.
But yeah, but then all jokes aside, I don't think anyone can prepare you to parent your kids.
No, they can't.
And that's probably one of the biggest insights I've had as a father, that that your babies are going to be for you.
Right.
They are yours alone.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
And I think God custom builds them for what it is that you need. So if you got a child who is all energy, well, it was time for you to step up.
That's right.
If you got a child who is lower on the energy scale, or requires a little bit less, maybe it's time for you to slow down.
That's right.
And I think that I think I see that now that we're at that point in our marriage, and a point in our age where, like, I thought I was in good shape, but these jokers, I've had a couple. I'm starting to have those slow get ups, and
no,
those, like, I got to stretch a little bit more.
But we used to always say too, wait till you have children.
Wait till you have children.
Yeah,
Wait till you have children.
and that's what we
You'll
say
get it
now.
all
Or better
back.
yet, y'all know how it is. It's like, we have that pillow talk where it's like, wait until they have their own kids. Y'all keep asking us to come out in this COVID, and like, I got babies, I got these creaks in my back happening. Okay, no, you just wait.
I already know, you're right.
Well, I tell you, the biggest epiphany I had was it's definitely when they get older, when you want to get mad about something that they do, and then you stop and just think about it, and you said, I was doing the exact same thing when I was that age.
Oh yeah.
And
But I think it's something that you can't experience until you raise a child.
Yeah.
And you recognize that even at 4 years old, Parker will say or do something that just in the moment drives me crazy. But then when I look back, I'm like, yeah, but you know what? I guess he's a human being too.
Yeah.
He has his own brain. He's making up his own choices and decisions.
He's figuring it out. He's figuring it out.
And when you was that old, you know doggone well, you wasn't just sitting there being still.
Yeah. And my dad still tells me this story every now and then. Whenever I tell him, whenever I'm venting about something that the boys have done, he was like, yeah, well, when we moved from Kansas City, you would not shut up about me taking away your friends. And he's told me that story so many times, and I'm just like, okay, all right, it's like, what 4-year-old is complaining about losing his friends?
Yeah.
It's not until you have your own.
Not until you have your own.
that you get it.
Yeah. Yeah, then you get it.
Like, I'm looking at them outside right now. Parker don't have a shirt on. Ellington running around. They're having a good time. They're trying to get my attention through the window. That's why I'm gonna keep looking at y'all, because they're just trying to not. And I told them I was gonna be ignoring them today. So
I did wish I had that kind of weather here today. I was slipping.
I know that's right.
A little bit
So I can run around with no shirt on.
We got.
I can't even run around in the house without a shirt on.
It's a little bit cold. It says 77. I thought it was a little colder today. I'm sorry. No, I didn't mean to do that. That was not a setup. I really. We had a little bit of cold streak. Now I'm gonna tell you, because we're in Pasadena, so we're about 20 minutes outside Hollywood, but we're way up toward the getting up toward the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And so when on the coldest days around here, you can catch a little snow. You can catch snow out here. People don't believe it, but you can, because it can drop to about 32.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It gets too cold.
Yeah. We got a couple questions for you in comments.
Yeah. In the comments. Hey now. Hey y'all.
You remember Pamela Galloway?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
She wants to know, what do you do to debrief yourself at the end of an emotional assignment?
Ooh. Wow, that is an incredibly thoughtful question. Because we my current role, we deal with that pretty significantly with the productions that are out shooting our
Mhm.
shows. So in the industry, we just call it duty of care, and that's sort of what it's called in across other um, industries. But making sure that people's mental health
Yeah.
is intact as they view triggering content,
Yes.
triggering imagery.
Mhm.
So keep that in mind, y'all who are listening, because when you watch a triggering or very emotionally charged story, documentary, or otherwise, somebody had to sit with that footage sometimes for years.
Yeah.
I mean, so imagine I guess in my case, looking at Emmett Till and all of the press around that for weeks and weeks on end, it can be hard. So thank you, Ms. Galloway, because I appreciate that question. So how do I debrief on that or come down? I have found that hobbies matter in life. I just had a
Mhm.
whole conversation with a coworker earlier. I was just telling y'all about it.
Yes, yeah, right.
We had a deep conversation about how statistically Black folks don't have hobbies. And I'm sure some of y'all listening are like, well, no, I got my little thing. I bowl. We don't have hobbies. We don't have hobbies like our white counterparts do,
Right.
Right.
because they have grown up and been indoctrinated in a world where work is not everything.
Mhm.
Even family isn't everything. For some cultures, self
Yeah.
and self-preservation, even within your family, is way more important than anything else.
Yeah.
And on the other side of it, many Black folks and Black families have been scraping and surviving so long that they don't even know how to come out of that survival
Right.
bubble.
That's right.
I have coworkers, I kid you not. Yeah, some of y'all are not gonna believe this. I have coworkers who go camping almost every weekend. Just every weekend. Like so Monday through Friday,
Uh-huh.
while they're at work, while they're hustling, while they're talking during Zoom meetings, whatever, they are also planning their getaway for this weekend where they're gonna go and they're gonna disconnect.
Mm. Mm.
That is the type of hobbies I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But having those things in your life is what gives you that mental lift. So I have lots of hobbies. After this, I'm running to Jewel City Bowl to get on my bowling league.
That's right.
But I also try to take time. I write pretty significantly. I'm always
All right.
looking for new stuff to cook. We just joined HelloFresh because that was one of my gifts to Kareem for Christmas. Like, okay, we'll take a couple months off from significant grocery shopping,
Mhm.
and they send you the fresh food in a box, and then we have 3 meals a week that I cook up. And I
Okay.
find that doing those things after work give me a chance to disconnect. I mean, I was having some trouble at the top of the pandemic disconnecting because I was working from home. And so
Mhm.
I spend all day, my job is to prep, plan ahead, scrutinize details. That's what I get paid to do. The production companies say, hey, this is how we want to shoot this thing. My job is to poke all the holes in it so that everybody's safe, so that we're on budget, and that we are doing it the way that Netflix wants us to do it.
Mhm.
That energy in the household is a recipe for disaster. Especially if you have not had a chance to come down from it. So
Yes.
so yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Ms. Galloway, because it takes intentionally choosing
Yes.
to come down, I think, is
yeah.
the answer. Is that you have to choose to walk away, take a deep breath, and step in with a new energy. So
Mhm.
Right. Right. Well, that was my new word for the last quarter last year is intentional.
Intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was in,
Yeah.
Yes.
intentional.
I mean, like you said,
intentionality, yeah.
people suffering with this anger and this
Yeah.
mental illness, but we got to deal with it quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
gotta
And
choose
there's
to-
so many ways.
Yes.
There's so many ways to, but if you are not introduced to those
Yeah,
ways,
those
or you were
tools,
not
yes.
raised in a way that
yes.
modeled that type of
No.
self-care. And I think that's like a big buzzword in the Black community right now, is like self-care, and you know,
Mhm.
everybody trying to take care of themselves, but it's not a joke.
No.
No.
Like I'm a proponent of marriage counseling. I'm a proponent of self-therapy,
Oh,
and I don't mean
yes.
self-therapy like
Mhm.
like diagnose yourself. You can't
Right,
do it.
right,
You
right.
need to be talking to a professional.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
again, our counterparts have been doing these things.
Right. Yeah.
And for some reason, many in the Black community feel like it's no different than some of the poor choices of the Black community in like healthcare,
Yes.
right? Like we all heard the stories of those folks who avoided going to the doctor,
Oh,
and
yeah.
then lo and behold, it shows up and it's too
It
late.
shows
It's too
up and
late.
it's too
Yeah.
late. You're right.
That's right.
And your mental health is no different. So I pray that my children see the way Karina and I are modeling our physical health, our professional health, but also our mental health, which is not a side part of that. That is maybe the most important.
Yeah. Right. Right.
So-
Especially in this day and age.
Mhm.
Oh, Lord. I remember when we first started going into lockdown, I remember saying to Karina, I was just like, my prayer is for those who really, really cannot be locked in the house,
Yeah.
especially with someone who may have some serious issues.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was my prayer for the longest, and still is, that those people find an outlet, find the help, find some way to cope with some of the things that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. She had one other question,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a simple one. Do you do your own research?
Ooh, so now we're getting into the nitty gritty of the job. So the short answer, I'm assuming she's talking about for production and for documentaries and whatnot.
Mm.
The short answer is yes. If I were making a documentary about my own life, nobody's going to hand me all of the footage and the pictures.
Mhm.
You have to go and do them. So for something like the museum, I had to establish relationships with libraries all over the country. Rights holders is a major part of it. So if I wanted to, I'm trying to think of a good example.
Yeah.
This is a perfect example. So Dr. Martin Luther King is all throughout the museum.
Mhm. Mhm.
Every single one of those pictures, every single one of those videos had to be paid for. You have to pay for the
Right.
right to
Right.
showcase
show it, yeah.
these images, and to make it even more complex, only because his estate is pretty complex. Not only do I have to pay whoever owns the image, because the chances are that the estate does not own the image, right? I still have to get permission from the estate. So I would have to say, hey, Dixon, y'all got this picture of Big Mama with Dr. Martin Luther King. Can I borrow it to scan it and then give it back? And it's like, yes. How much you paying? Then I got to figure out how much I'm gonna pay for it.
Right. Right.
For it to be
Wow.
on display with y'all's name on the bottom from your personal library forever,
Yeah.
right? Then I need to go say, hey, MLK estate, I got this picture from the Dixons. Can we show this picture of Dr. Martin Luther King? And 9 times out of 10 they say yes, but estates are notoriously litigious,
Mhm.
because especially if it's the estate of someone who is so impactful,
Powerful. Mhm.
not just to a city or a state, we're talking about the world,
The
right?
world.
Mhm.
The world.
So
Oh, yeah.
so because it was for Smithsonian, we were able to get all those rights. But for a typical documentary, sometimes it can be years of negotiating.
Wow.
And it can be very difficult to do that research. So sometimes you have entire teams of archivists and researchers. That is a actual title in the credits of some of these docs, that somebody's job, it was just to do that, to find the images that we need, to negotiate those rights, to get those folks paid, and then to make sure that their credits are correct in the credits. So it's
I
it's
know
a lot of
that's
work.
right.
It's a lot of work. That
Wow.
yeah, if you're on the outside looking in, you don't think it's that much work.
Well, and
I know
that's
it's a
the
lot
magic
behind
of
the
it.
scenes.
Yeah, yeah.
I know it's a lot behind the scenes. I
Right.
We
really
want to
do.
keep it behind the scenes too. We want y'all to just enjoy the stuff.
Okay, and then we just got a comment. Camilla Savage said, "When God has a plan for your life, you can't escape it.
Mm-mm.
You can't.
Well,
Can't
you
do
know,
it.
And I'm sure many listening can attest to, even when you try
Even
to
when you try.
escape it,
Mhm.
Yeah,
he'll let you run, but you're not going to get away.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah. And he may even punish you just a little bit, Just a little bit.
Yeah, he
just
said
wake
you
you
don't get
up.
no
Yeah.
sleep.
Yeah, just to wake you up. Just to wake you up.
Just to let
His
you know he's
plans
still
were-
there. That
Right,
is.
right.
His
So
plans will not be thwarted. That's for sure.
so let's get back. So Netflix.
Mhm.
They reached out to you. You said, okay, this sounds good. And how does it work? I mean, you do the original documentary films.
Mhm.
So what's that like?
So network documentary film is pretty interesting. I mean, Netflix is interesting in general, and you know,
Mhm.
I can't go into all the details.
No,
So ask me when your next
no,
your
no.
favorite show is debuting next. I don't know. I get that question a lot. It's like, hey, when they dropping the next Stranger Things or something? And I'm like, listen, first of all, I don't work in scripted television. I work in docs. So if you want to know more about that, I still can't tell you. So
Those documentaries are something too.
Right.
oh yeah. Well, we like to joke on my team that that we're the smallest team within Netflix. I mean, Netflix is almost at like, I don't know, like 10,000 employees or something crazy
Wow.
like that now. And our team is one of the smallest, certainly the smallest on production, but we also have the most Oscars and the most awards because documentaries is where
Yes.
we are really crushing it. I mean,
Yes.
we do the big stuff really well, but I love working for a company that also has some serious thought and serious leadership
Yes.
guiding the creative of even documentaries
Yes,
and
those documentaries
non-script
are- they
unscripted
devastating.
television.
Yeah.
They're great, but there's also some fun ones. There's some really rough ones out there, but if you haven't seen like Puff, Wonders of the Reef, check that one out. That's about a little puffer fish. And
Oh,
it's so cute.
it,
It's a good family one.
it sounds like something else.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes,
You
Puff,
know how that
Wonders of the
The
Reef.
reef. Reef.
Yes, right.
That's it. End at the F.
You know that.
Yes, that's
That's
a family
exploded.
friendly. Yes.
And that's
Oh.
that's still out there.
Yeah, so that was there. That's funny, y'all. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff out there, but yeah, Docs is an incredible space because we have the creative outlet, we have the mandate to entertain,
Mhm.
just like watching your favorite TV series or movie, but there's also this journalistic element of
Yes.
showing the world as it is. That's something that we say a lot in our kickoff meetings when we're starting up a new project. We always share with the filmmakers. Some of these are like A-list documentary filmmakers, but we always want to impart that that showing the world as it is a very special
Yes.
responsibility.
Ooh.
And Netflix takes it very seriously. So that's something you can count on for all of our shows for sure.
Right. Because I know that we're in that time space where people just want to know.
Mhm.
They want to know what's real and how
Yeah.
it went down, regardless. If it's juicy, cool. If it's can't think of the word, but you know, if you do a documentary on axe murder, we want to see that too. You know, we just want to we just want all the details about real people doing real things.
Yeah. I think that's exactly it. Is that that these characters, even in these documentary series or documentary films, they are real people, and we're going to showcase them as real people. Even the fun docs. I mean, there's I can think about Karina and I had just watched the Malice at the Palace doc, and just keep it in Detroit.
Yeah,
I'm sure a lot of folks saw that.
Oh,
and that was just before I was even within earshot of stuff going on in the NBA like that. Like I just wasn't really paying attention.
Right.
But that's truly showing people in their authenticity, because I think a lot of folks learned something very new about that experience. Even being from Detroit, I had one perception of what that event was.
Exactly.
Right.
And afterwards, my mind is illuminated, and that's what I love about docs is giving people the opportunity to make up their own mind about something that maybe they would not have come in contact with had it not been for, in this case, Netflix, because with being the biggest streamer in the world, we're in 190 countries. So to tell a story that is fun, like our Puff one, right? That's a fun one to share natural history all around the world. But also some of these harder to tell stories that are very personal. Again, I remember folks always having some opinion about the balance of the powers.
Mhm.
But now you may run into someone in London who's a fan of NBA who had this perception, and now you've changed their small part of the
It
world
was
and
impactful.
and given that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
that was definitely one some stuff to be, and especially because for us in Detroit, it was told from the Indiana Pacers' point of view, which was
Always told me.
which was a point of view that we just didn't share
Mhm.
because
Mhm.
blame wanted to be placed somewhere. But when you looked at the
Yeah.
story, it really wasn't what was going on. It was some other
Yeah.
folks, and they even pointed fingers within themselves
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
at the instigators of it, and it affected a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
A
That's
lot
what
of
I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Very
Yeah,
impactful.
yeah,
Very,
yeah.
very.
So yeah, I enjoyed that one. And so,
Mm.
are you working on anything that you can talk about? Anything new?
It's hard.
Yeah,
It's hard.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I know, I know.
No. It's okay because Netflix has a very unique culture that we call freedom and responsibility, and so just like I don't have to like ask permission to talk about Netflix and things like that, but it's very imperative to the way our business operates that
Sure.
we wait until the official announcement of certain things.
Mhm.
What I can say is that I feel very lucky to be working at a place that is producing content that is going to continue to be culturally impactful.
Yes.
Particularly with some of the things that have happened over the last couple of years within like the Black Lives community, within the Latinx community, politically. I mean, we definitely continue to work with diverse filmmakers and
yeah.
diverse creators to tell stories that are impactful right now. So I'll tell you what, keep up with me on social media. I'll try to post some of that stuff. But yeah, like until it's like officially and formally announced.
Sure.
And that's usually that's the best way to receive those cool things. But there definitely some great stuff on the horizon.
Right. Well, without that, we had a young man on a few weeks ago. He moved down to Atlanta, and he's working on some projects. So of course he, when you work, we already know when you're working on projects, that means it's a thin line of something that you could actually mess around and say that could cause it to not be a go.
Yeah, and that's the truth. I mean, now like personal projects, y'all want to hear about my personal stuff? I can talk all day about it. But the Netflix stuff is yeah, they hold it so close to the chest, and I think that's part of the reason why Netflix has blown up the way that it has, because the culture is truly modeled to be inclusive, but also intentional, like we were talking about the way information is shared, and the correct platform to share it, and you don't want to muddy that messaging. And there's a lot of companies, a lot of public figures who muddy their message because they're not intentional with what and when and where and how, all those things, they really matter.
It's like a basketball team. You hear a story, but nobody's going to put a name on it about a player about to be traded.
Exactly.
Nobody's talking about it, but it had to be an executive because who else knew? And so
look, and you can Google those Netflix employees who have fallen outside of that internal trust.
Yeah.
And how some of them don't have jobs anymore. So and I don't want to be one of them. So
we don't want you to be one of them either.
We don't want you to be one of them.
Okay, so but I mean, let's just say the beautiful thing is that you're there, and we got a voice and a presence handling the business, as they said in Hamilton, in the room where it happened. So we appreciate that, and we kudos to you for even making that step to get there.
I appreciate it. Yeah. I do. And as I've already said, it's definitely a blessing to me. It's not a I don't take it for granted. And all the steps along the way that I've had that have been fully faith led, I don't take them for granted, which is why I continue to work hard. I mean, even when Karina and I have our conversation about what are we going to do next, like, I don't know. And I'm okay with not knowing, because I know that we're where we're supposed to be right
Supposed to
now.
be right now.
Right,
There
right.
you
And
go.
that God has always provided in every single one of these circumstances. Every time we started having this conversation, all we had to do was wait another moment.
Yeah.
Like, wait another heartbeat. Really, that's really almost all it feels like, because in retrospect, I don't even remember the moments in between. I
Yeah.
really don't. But some of them were years.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Years.
But it was just
Yeah.
it was just a preparation stage.
Mhm.
Just like
Yeah.
him, he stepped out on faith. We didn't even know it would be, we would have this many guests and
Right.
doing and so many people doing so many things,
Yeah. This
and have
was
such simple stories that made them just.
yeah. Because
I just said, look how the Lord just works.
Mhm.
right. But the beauty of it is what we've been doing with this is that when I wanted to do the podcast, even the way we came up with the name, it was trying to come up with a name. All the names, I had 2 names before this when they were taken. Went to visit my mother. Went to visit my mother's grave, and was just thinking on the ride home, man, she's been gone so long. There's so much stuff that's happened in this world that she never got a chance to tell me about it. And oh my goodness, things my mother never told me. And that's how the name came about. And so, and then, okay, let's do the podcast. Who we gonna have on the show? Well, we know this person at church. We know all these people who are doing all these things, and we just want to.
Now we 60 people later.
Right, we just want to showcase people who are
Still
who are doing things, and to them, like a lot of people say, well, I ain't doing nothing special. Not to you, but to somebody else, because it may be somebody who wants to be where you are right now and don't know if there's a way in for them to get there. Well, he got there, he was lucky, or whatever.
Look, man, I'm like feeling that, because I'm really big on self-help books right now, and so I'm on like my millionth read through of Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I highly recommend it if you haven't read it. It's all about what it takes to get to where you want to go, and how for most of us, it's not luck, it's not somebody else opportunities, it's usually like the processes that you're putting in place and the choices you're making along the way. And one of the things that they talk about in that book and a couple other books is always this idea of like, you have to leap and then the parachute will appear, right? You can't use a parachute if you're not jumping out of the plane, right? It doesn't do anything. So even if somebody gave you a parachute while you were out on in this inside of the plane, it's not going to work. It's not going to take you to where you got to go. You have to leap. And so I amend that when I'm talking to folks at church, or just talking to folks casually. That is, for me, it's like, you got to leap, and then God will catch you. And I think a lot of us, me included, a lot of us have been in those moments where it's like, God, just catch me now. Just put me down where I'm supposed to be right now. That's what I want to wake up tomorrow, and I want to have all the things that I know you're going to provide for me. I just want to have them now. But the reality is that you can't leap. I mean, I'm sorry, you got to leap. You can't catch you until you leap. So
he says it in his word.
And in rare instances, when he's trying to get you to move and you won't move, he'll push you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sometimes
he'll push
you.
And then watch me work.
But like you said, if you take that one step, you'll do the 2, the 3, and keep on going.
But you got to take that step.
You got to do it.
You got to
make the decision.
And if you're having trouble finding that step, I'm telling you, check out Atomic Habits, because that's exactly what it is. That procrastination, that self-doubt. Sometimes it's just your environment. Sometimes it's just that one change you can make in your day that will just set your foot forward as opposed to where it's been. So you gotta say it. Look, whoever's listening, make getting that book your first step. That might be your leap. That might be all it takes. Y'all, I get so pumped about this. I want everybody to win, and I want everybody to receive what it is you feel like you're missing, because it's there for you.
That's right. Yeah. They say about a basketball player, you can't score any points if you don't get off the bench.
Wayne Gretzky has a great quote you
miss 100%. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Man, like that, if that doesn't inspire you to just do something differently this evening, then you're gonna keep waiting, because nobody's coming to save you.
Yeah.
It's just not gonna do it.
Mm.
Job ain't coming to the door and
No.
knocking.
Right,
No.
right. You said, and then if it did, you probably wouldn't even
You
answer.
wouldn't answer. Yeah.
Mm.
Probably wouldn't even answer.
Because you'd have to take that leap. You have to go see, well, who's at the door?
Who's
You
at the
got
door?
to go look.
Yes.
Yeah, who's at the door? Right.
Say it.
So I got one
Ooh.
couple more things, then we'll let you get out of here because I know we won't take up too much of your day.
Didn't he say he
Ellington.
had somewhere to go?
Right, you got somewhere to
No,
go.
I'm doing fine. I'm having such a good time, y'all.
Ellington and Parker. How did y'all? What was the impetus behind those names? We already know, but go ahead.
Oh, wow. So Ellington is named after Duke Ellington. My parents got me involved in music very, very young. Kareen's parents were also influential in like music and culture in their home. Her
Mhm.
dad, I say, is like, he's like a jazz aficionado to the 10th degree.
Okay.
He is, I mean, he can tell you what this song is, who's not just who's lead, but who's playing background, where they recorded
Wow.
that session. He knows all that stuff. And so that was our way of starting the trend with Parker as well, of naming our children after inspiring and influential Black people.
Yeah.
And so Ellington's name is Ellington David Johnson. So his middle name is family name, my name, and my father's name. And then Parker, many assume that Parker is named after
Charlie Parker.
Charlie Parker, which is a fair assumption. However, he's actually named after Gordon Parks, the photographer,
Yes.
the famous Time photographer. Yes. Gordon Parks is also the first African American to direct a major motion picture for a studio.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. And obviously, he was just this all-around spectacular human being. And then Parker's middle name is Michaud, after Oscar Michaud, who was the first Black filmmaker. He was the first Black man to put together his own production company. This is all in the early 1900s. Got his hands on a camera and made, I think, dozens and dozens of films. Unfortunately, many of them have been lost to time. So hopefully we'll find some of them in the future. But Oscar Michaud is the inspiration for Parker. So Ellington David Johnson and Parker Michaud Johnson.
All right.
It does something. Well, you know your mother was big on names too. You know,
Yeah,
you always
names
like
matter.
your name have a story. Your name, is important.
Right.
Names,
You know,
Right,
matter.
because everybody she met, she asked them, okay,
oh
what's your
yeah,
name?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, what's your name?
What's
mean?
your
Yeah.
name mean?
And honestly, and I also now I'm thinking about it, I guess I never really shared this out loud, but that was also my parents' style. So my middle name is Lawrence. I'm named after Paul Laurence Dunbar, the poet. Yeah. And my brother's middle name is Langston. So after Langston Hughes. So we grew up having a connection with those men,
association,
from the womb. Yeah. And I pray, and not even I pray, because I think I'm doing it, but at 4 years old, Parker knows who Gordon Parks is. He knows who Oscar Michaud is. He knows that these are not, in his world, these men have not been relegated to some small, tiny part of history. Okay. And as he moves into the school system, as he's talking to other kids, regardless of their nationality, they're going to ask him, like, Michaud, what is Michaud? And he's going to break him down. He's going to let him know what this is.
There you go.
And that is, there's a level of confidence that is instilled in a Black child.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
When they know who they are, and as my mom used to say, who they are and whose they are.
Yeah, and who
they are. It's unmatched, and he's going to be ready for everything else the world has to throw at him.
All right.
Amen.
Beautiful. And so last two things, and we out of here. Last two. We just want to get some kudos out because we were talking before we went on the air. Ellington did a little acting, right?
Yeah, he did a little guest spot on Kids Say the Darndest Things a little while ago.
Yeah,
and so amazing.
Some of you may have seen that episode.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Right,
it's a good time.
and
it's still on YouTube and all that.
Yeah, that's right. And lastly, Kareen, what is she doing now? I know she was doing a podcast. To our women.
Yeah, so her mothering brand is still kicking. I mean, she is such an inspiration to all the moms in her circle. She spends a lot of time encouraging, a lot of time talking to and thinking about how to make mothering a a joyful experience. And because mothering as a man, look,
You couldn't do it, huh?
as I've gotten older, and I'm grateful to my wife for being this inspiration for me. Being a woman is already hard. Being a Black woman is already hard.
Yeah.
Being a mother for any woman's situation takes it all up a notch. And I'm so proud of the way that she has continued to make that a focus, even with the way she deals with mothers at the church and children's ministry she's involved in. It's all comes from this place of understanding that motherhood is not a joke. Motherhood is not something that others should take lightly. Motherhood is, and so we're talking about earlier with like mental health and all these things. Like these are the things that she's really starting to dive into and explore in this time in her life. And it's been incredible to be witness to it and support it the best ways that I can. I'm not always perfect about it, but I try to support her in every way that I can.
That's right. That's
Absolutely.
right. Without a doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, we'll put a bug in there. We want to have her come on and tell us about that.
Oh, she would be great.
Okay. Well, I know she would, because I had a chance early on to see some of her stuff.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, because she can talk about it. Yeah, I mean it's
yeah.
Like I said, it's good, and especially we have quite a few colleagues and friends out there who don't necessarily have like a mission statement in life. I mean, they're just kind of out here, they're making their money, maybe making money is their thing, but we try to be intentional about what we're putting out into the world, what we're inspiring in others. And I joke with her all the time. That's like when I listen to the way that she encourages other mothers. I'm not talking about social media. I'm talking about when she's on the phone with some of her homegirls who are going through these things and talking through those things. I tell her, it's like, I don't really have friends. Like, I mean, she doesn't like me saying that, but I'm very solitary. I reach out, I check in with folks, but
yeah,
she
like
empowers, she
Yeah.
empowers and validates other women in such a way that I sometimes I'm just like, man, can I just sit in the room and just kind of like be a
soak
part
it
of
in. Yeah, just soak all that in.
Yeah.
Yes, that is very encouraging and inspiring. But I just said, and what was the name of that podcast again?
Kareen's podcast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Kareen is Mommy Hour with Kareen Levon. Yeah.
Oh,
so she had a whole bunch of episodes of the traditional podcast, and then she moved it to like Facebook Lives and stuff. And so she was doing that for a while. And so yeah, and then she took her little holiday, and she's got other stuff that she's cooking up right now. So you see, I'm really good at withholding the stuff. I guess like Netflix is training me. Like I can't give all the goods.
And you're not supposed to.
What else?
Right. I mean, but if we could
we got I got young mothers, young cousins that I want them to get it right.
Right.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So and any type of this information like that will be inspiring and helpful for them.
Right.
Yeah. Parenting is a and this is regardless of gender. It's parenting is a transformative experience for any human being. And if you are not seeking counsel, seeking the love and the support of other parents, of older parents, you are doing yourself a disservice, and you're suffering. You're essentially suffering in silence, and that's one of the most dangerous places for you to be mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually, is if you are suffering in silence. It is the Bible says it's not good. It wasn't good for man to be alone, but also it's not good for anybody to be alone.
That's right.
Not be doing this thing alone. Right. And you don't have.
We need people. That's right. That's why he created a community.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
A family.
Right. Any more questions today?
No, I'm just saying he answered all our questions.
any last thoughts you want to share with the people?
No, I'm like looking around, it's like looking at my video. I'm like, man, it's dark in here. Sorry, because the sun's going down out here. The sun was shining when we started.
All right.
No, y'all, I'm so grateful that that I had a chance to come on and talk. It really means a lot to me because, as I said, we feel isolated at times out here, and being away from all of our family is on the East Coast and in the Midwest. I mean, we have
Right.
a few spots over here, but I mean, our core is
Yes.
still all out there. So just even having a chance to reconnect with y'all when I was back home
Right,
and,
right,
and,
right.
and inviting me on the show.
Yeah.
I'm so appreciative and so supportive of what you're doing here. Like I said, I like when I looked it up, I was like, oh, nice. I see y'all got a show going on. But I didn't realize you said 60 something episodes deep.
This is season 3, episode 4 or 5, and we had each season is 20 episodes.
Oh yeah. So y'all, I pray that you continue, and I pray that this opens up doors for y'all because communicating and sharing stories matters.
Oh,
And I mean,
yes.
again, I mean, being in documentaries, I mean, I take that to heart, and this is just another medium to do that. And so giving people an opportunity to share their story, it also gives people a chance to feel validated. It gives people a chance to feel like they're getting some of their laurels when they're still alive, because we
Yes.
talk about that
Yes.
often in a lot of church settings that
Right.
giving somebody their laurels after death, there's a time for that, but people are alive, they're living right now, and
And they need
and they
to
have
get it.
incredible stories to share.
Yeah.
Incredible
And-
stories to share.
Right. And I want to believe we're on the right path because people that I had a list of who I wanted to be on the show. And at this point, everybody on that list except one person's been on there. And what happens is everybody who, like with you, if it wasn't for your father's party, you wouldn't be on there. Because we got a chance to run this.
And look, there is another universe where, well, not even another universe. I was only about 2 steps away from not going because of COVID, because of things like we were like the whole family was going to go maybe, and then I really wasn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't feeling it. I talked about it with my therapist. I was like, I'm not feeling this. I don't know if I want to go. I was like, I'm super nervous because we hadn't done any traveling. I mean, I'm trying to think. So in all the pandemic, that was my second time flying.
Yeah.
Because when cases had gone down in DC, we had gone there during the summertime. And then when things started to tick back up, going through the fall and whatnot, I was like, in the Midwest, y'all gonna be coughing and sneezing and blowing noses way earlier than us. Y'all don't want to get on no plane.
Right.
I want to do it.
Right. And so it things work out, and it's got to be a reason involved in it. And, we know God is a reason. We don't know exactly ultimately where we headed, but we're gonna enjoy this ride.
Yeah, I know, because I used to I took this so lightly, and then next thing I know, and then when I started seeing that the people and their interesting stories and how we lead somebody else to another career, maybe another, it's like
But that's why I encourage everybody listening, just like I was throwing out that book there, is that like even just listening to a podcast opens up your mind. It creates those new pathways in your brain, gives you something new and different to start thinking about and maybe apply in your own life. So that's why I look, things my mother never told me. Just everybody has things that their mother never told them. Every single person on this earth. So let's just start getting everybody in here.
Yes. Some people just don't want to admit it.
That's true. That's true.
And it's not, and we always tell them it's not a dig. It's not a dig against mothers.
No,
it's just that some information wasn't available to them. Some stuff they just knew.
They were tried to protect us from.
Like you said, you don't experience. You can't experience stuff until you experience it.
Yeah.
You can't. And Karina and I had a whole conversation about this just recently, just about just figuring out how to parent small children during the pandemic. This is not something my mother told me.
She couldn't have told you that. She couldn't have told you,
right? But the entire world, we've talked about it. Like Karina and I talked about it, even when it comes like screen time, where it's like we can't keep trying to emulate what our parents did for us. And I think that this is one of those things that you can't learn until you're a parent, because I think all of us, before we're parents, we know exactly what we want to do, but that's because that's what was modeled. Or we know exactly what we don't want to do because of what was modeled.
Don't want to do. Yes.
But even those things are not going to prepare you for the world that you live in. I live in a world where my 4 and 6-year-old, there is a screen everywhere.
Yeah.
So restricting screen time, like I grew up, David grew up, I didn't watch TV during the week. Well, that's because TV was the only screen in my house.
Right, right.
The computer wasn't for games. The computer wasn't for the internet. The computer was for researching
Yeah.
papers, maybe in middle school, and
Yeah.
AOL Instant Messenger,
Yeah.
right? So we're trying to be flexible. We're trying to continue to walk in faith, be aligned together on what's best for our family, because there was nothing that could have prepared us for what parenting our children in our time was going to be
Yes.
like. So
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
You're right.
Yeah.
this parenting
Okay.
problems. That's
Yeah, you just take little tidbits from us, because like you said, everything else has blown up since then. We don't even know what to do.
That's
with
why
it.
we do it. I mean, Karina and I both, we just talk about how we're just grateful that we both found someone who values the wisdom of our elders,
Mhm.
who values our family, who
Yes.
values counsel, like little things like that type of compatibility that matters.
Yes.
It matters.
does.
It matters.
does.
Oh Lord. And
Communication matters.
communication matters. Yeah. But even in the communication,
Yes.
communicate, it helps if you're in a
Amongst us.
relationship with somebody who also believes that communication matters.
Communication. Yeah. That's right.
Right?
Right.
Because
That's
if
right.
if one thinks communication matters and
And one-
one does not, y'all
Yes.
got some work to do.
We
Yeah.
got some work to
Yeah.
do.
Especially
Yeah.
one that likes to communicate.
Yeah.
Look, I am the over communicator in my relationship, and I have had to learn that the way that I thought that I wanted to have a spouse communicate is not necessarily what my wife was bringing to this relationship.
Yes.
So we had some work to do,
Yes.
right? And woo, my
Well,
mother
we
didn't
done
tell me
we done went to a whole nother
I
topic.
tried to bring it back.
We done left
I
you.
was like, we about to skyrocket
You
off
had
into
to
something else.
cut this.
We'll put a pin in it. We'll put a pin in it. And we'll try to have you back on at a later date when you just see
Well,
what's going on new.
Oh, I would be honored to do so
'cause
anytime. It'd
I'm
be
always
my
gonna be
pleasure.
looking at Netflix.
But
so
yeah,
they-
but talk with Corinne and see if she want to come on here so she can, and we let her run the show.
I so will. I so will.
Hey,
All
Davey,
right,
thank you
then.
for coming on here.
Thank you.
We
We
appreciate
appreciate
it.
you
Yes,
so
yes.
much.
Thank you.
Thoroughly
It's been
enjoyed
such
you.
a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
All
You take
right.
care. Tell the kids, hey.
All
Love
right.
y'all.
All right. Next
Be
film.
safe
we're
out
gonna
there.
say, yeah.
I know
All
that's
right.
right. All right.
All right. have a
Talk to
good
y'all
one,
next
baby.
time.
All
Yes,
right,
sir.
then.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness.